Hi, it's Jack the Psychopath. I'm going to explain to you in a couple parts series of my life and how I became who I am today. First off, let me let me start off by saying that I am an insane psychopathic killer. That if you approach me, I will probably mistake you for my dinner or my playdate. In this story, I'm going to explain how I got there. I am wanted in 7 states. I've never been found. I've had encounters with many supernatural creatures, but that will be entered inside the story. Now then, on to the story. I and my brother were 9 and 8. I was 9 years old. My brother Max was 8. We had a rough childhood growing up. Our mother divorced my father 6 years ago, and we were stuck in that house for more than half of our lives. Until one day, we decided to run away. While I was 6, my brother was 5. We had split up because my brother had thought that'd be best. So I ran away from him, and that was probably the worst mistake I could have ever made. Because one day, 10 years later, I'm 16 years old, and I still regret the day I met up with my brother. It was a Saturday morning. I had come out of my house with my adopted parents, who had found me in the woods, almost half dead. And then I heard a knock at my door. Of course, I got up, put my shirt on, and walked to the front door. I looked through the eye hole and seen a stranger with long black hair and a face so sad you would cry just looking at it. I opened the door. "Yes? Who is it?" I said. "It's me. Is there a Jack here?" the man said. "Yes, I am Jack. May I ask who you are?" The man sat there in silence. He looked at me with a dawning, eerie look of sadness. I knew right then and there that this was my long-lost brother. "Max!" I yelled. I ran to him and hugged him as tight as I could, almost breaking out in tears. "It's nice to see you too, brother," Max replied. "Where have you been this whole time? I have so many questions, so many things to ask you," I screamed. Later. May I come in? Are your parents home?" "Yes, you may come in," I said. "And no, my parents are not home. They are out of town for a business trip." Good, he replied. We sat down on the couch, I drinking my soda and him had a cup of water with ice. All we did for the past 5 minutes was stare at each other in amazement. "This is my brother. This is the one man I've looked for my entire life," I had said to myself. All of a sudden, the silence had broken. "So, how's life here?" he had said. "Great, I guess. These parents aren't exactly a welcoming committee. They're more of a stay out of town and leave you alone type," I said. We stood up and we walked into the living room. "All right, you may ask me any question you want," Max had said. I was amazed. He still looked like he was ready for these questions. I had opened my mouth. I had said, Where were you these whole 10 years?" I said. He looked at me with sadness. I don't remember. All I remember here is I woke up in front of your doorstep, and the only thought in my mind was that you lived here. So all I could do was knock on the door and see if I was correct, he said. Well, you were correct, but what I don't get is how you ended up on my doorstep. I mean, were you with some bad people? Or did you have a job or anything? He looked at me in awesomeness. Yes, I was a clown for some kind of circus, but it wasn't your normal circus. Everything had a disturbing smile and grin to it. The stuffed animals looked like they would injure you in a second, he had said. I was horrified. I hugged him. I said, "Did they hurt you at all?" I asked. "No," he said. "But they did often roughhouse with me, especially the owner," he said. "Well, what did the owner look like? Maybe we can catch him, call the police." Mac's head looked at me. "He's not normal, Jack. He had skin as white and leathery. It looked almost as if it was rubber. He had a cone nose with black and white stripes, the same colors on his shirt and his sleeves. He also had black suspenders. I'm sorry, but that's all I can remember about him right now. Also, he had sharp teeth. He looked as if he was brutally injured and was recreated." "Well, you don't have to worry about that anymore," I comforted him. The only thought in my mind was Laughing Jack, an insane psycho man who was more capable of killing you than you were of walking into your bedroom. It was if he was real. The room shook as I said, "Laughing Jack." He stopped and stared at me. "How do you know?" The door is shut. We heard the door slam shut, as if someone had just entered the house. "Jack, we're home," my adopted mother said. She had walked into the living room. I had turned to look at her. "Jack, who were you talking to?" she said. I turned around and I was going to say my brother, but as I turned, he was nowhere. I had searched the entire house, every room, every closet, but I found nothing. "Mother, my brother, Max, the one who I lost 10 years ago, he came to visit me," I had said. "Well, where is this man? I would like to meet him," my adopted father said. They all looked stunned and happily applauded me, as if I had just won some award. "Where is this nice man, Jack?" I looked pale. I don't know. He just disappeared as he walked in." "Well, we should probably go eat dinner, you know. It's almost time for bed," my adopted father said. We sat down at the table, me eating my steak, corn and mashed potatoes, thinking to myself, he was here. He was in the house. He was touching me. He was hugging me. I am not insane. Right after dinner, I went to bed and had a horrible nightmare. I remember my brother, Max, who was 5 years old at the time of my dream, and I was apparently 6. We were running out into the woods. I remember him saying, "Jack, it's not your fault," he said. "Let me go by myself. I want to." He said out loud. In my dream, I replied, "No! You're my brother. I have to keep you safe, no matter what." I hugged him. That moment, in my dream, Max had shoved me to the ground and sprinted off into the woods as quick as he could. He was nowhere in sight by the time I had gotten up. I remember, right after that, I turned around to see a tall, pale man in a black suit. This was not any of my memories. This was a new part. The man had held out his hand. He was extremely tall and extremely skinny, or thin. He had no face. He only had a black suit. He said that his name was SM, and that he could fix all of this if I did something for him. So I had asked him, "What can I do to bring back my brother, please?" I had said. He could not talk, but I could still hear his thoughts inside my head. I remember him saying, "You must swear to murder and kill everybody you know and everybody you meet, especially children, babies, and even teenagers. Even old people if you must." My heart stopped. I woke up screaming, "No!" My parents had just sprinted into my room. "Jack, are you okay?" they yelled. "Yeah, I'm fine. It was just a nightmare. Good night," I had said. The next morning, I had woken up to something completely strange. My room, that was extremely fancy in my own way and entirely clean, was a disaster the next day. My clothes thrown out of my dresser, my window broken in half, with glass shards everywhere, my bed unmade as I laid on the floor with a blanket and 2 pillows. I had gotten up. What happened last night? I didn't do this. That afternoon, I asked my parents if I may go out to go jog. Of course, I wasn't going out just for any jog. I was going out to find my brother. So when I went, before I had gone, I had packed my backpack with a knife to protect myself, 4 bottles of water, 2 pairs of clothes, and a blanket and a sleeping bag. I sprinted out the door before my parents had stopped me, and I didn't look back. And this was part 1 of Jack the Psychopath.